Courtney, it is lovely to see you live in person on Zoom. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for
So nice to see you.
Well, and after having listened to your songs, and I think of you as a little ray of musical sunshine, so it's really lovely to see
Oh,
you.
that's so lovely. That's so nice. I love
That's
that.
true. I have my songs that I listen to, and I like to pep up the mood or whatever it is. But you are in a studio at the moment, so I'm guessing you're recording some new music.
Yes, that's right. I'm up on the New South Wales Central Coast, so it's nice to be out of Melbourne for a change and get back out and about. I had to go on a plane, which was weird
Wow.
yesterday. I know, like shock, so that was really, really great. And it's good to be up here, up working with Rod McCormack again. We're doing a bit of recording, working on a few little projects that hopefully next year we'll be able to tell a little bit more about.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. I suppose it would have been so hard to plan this sort of thing because you didn't know when you were able to leave the state. And I know you've worked with Rod before, so obviously you'd want to work with him again. So it's not like, oh, I'll just find another producer in Melbourne.
Exactly. It's a bit of a tricky one with all the lockdowns and being in separate states. It has been challenging, but we've just kind of had to go whenever there's a gap, whenever the borders are open, whenever it's not locked down, just go with it. And over the last couple of months, we were planning towards me coming up in December, and we kind of were just fingers and toes crossed that it would all still happen. And thankfully, we're here now. And there's been a couple of those moments over the past year and a half where it's really just been, okay, borders are open, are you free in a week, let's go. So you kind of just have to be flexible and go with it, but plan as much as you can at the same time. And we've done a lot remotely as well, which is awesome, but it's nothing like being in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, so in order to go on short notice, you would have to have the songs at a stage where you're ready to record them. Do you usually do a lot of pre-production in that respect, or are you someone who likes to get to the studio and tinker a bit?
Well, the good thing is writing wise, we spend a lot of time writing on Zoom. So we have the songs pretty well ready to record, before we get into the studio. And then by the time I turn up, Rod's normally got a bass track done, all these beautiful parts in there. So, we then get into the creative part of putting all the different instruments on and things like that. But he normally has a great bass that then I can just turn up really and get going, which is great.
Do you enjoy recording?
Oh, I love it. It's fun. It's like the one moment where it's got like, oh, there's this beautiful track. Now the pressure's on. I've actually got to do my job and do the singing part. But I love it. It's good fun. It's just a really nice process of seeing it all come to life. And a song that, when you did the work tape, it sounded so different to then all these colourful, parts that Rod puts in there. And, we've got a bass coming in later on to pop some bass sections on as well, which is exciting. So it's just nice getting to see everyone add their little bits and pieces, and it grows, which is very cool.
And then you get to go out and play it, and it takes on its own life there as well for you as a performer. I would imagine every performance of a song is a little bit different, at least.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess especially after numerous lockdowns, I haven't gotten to perform a lot of my songs, to be honest. It's been a bit bizarre launching my career in this time. It means, the latest single, I still haven't performed it live. So I'm looking forward to finally getting to do that, I think, this weekend up here. So that will be great. But, it's just bizarre. Normally you'd be out and about playing everything and playing all the new stuff, testing it on the crowd. And, now you kind of just have to go with it, put it out, and then hopefully get a chance to play it sometime.
Yeah, it's been so testing from a creative point of view, I think. And but I don't want to linger too long on lockdown because we're here to talk about you. So to backtrack a long way, when did your musical life start? Were you musical as a child?
Yeah, I loved music as a kid, loved dancing, singing, acting, all that stuff, all the creative arts types of things in school. And I just would always be singing around the house. And, we listened to a lot of music growing up, all genres. My parents are just big music lovers. So we just always had music on in the house, always when we're in the car. So it was just very natural that then when at about the age of 9, I found that I'd, really loved to sing. And my parents thankfully sent me off for some vocal lessons and kind of didn't look back after that. It was just pretty, normal to me to be like, oh yeah, no, I want to be a singer. I want to be a singer kind of as a kid. That, not every kid knows what they want to do at the age of 9 and 10 and things like that. But I was just like, nope, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. So, started working towards that and singing lots, practicing, performing a little bit. Then in my teens, started getting into songwriting more, looking into, how songs are written, all the different processes and things like that. And then learning to write my own songs as well. So it was a nice journey of kind of enjoying singing and then finding that real interest for writing as well. And over the years, working with lots of different writers and, taking my time to connect with the right producer, and I have been around music for so long now, but it wasn't until early last year that I properly connected with Rod to then finally bring out my own music.
Yeah, because I suppose I don't suppose it is an important relationship because that person is your collaborator in so many ways.
Absolutely. And, it's been great working with Rod because he's been not only producing, he's been doing a lot of the writing with me as well. And, we've worked really closely together and he's just incredible. Firstly, he's incredible instrumentalist. He's incredible producer, songwriter, everything, he wears a lot of hats. So it's been awesome getting to have him, mentoring me and supporting me. And obviously through that, working with Gina as well as a mentor. It's just been really great to find those people that are really willing to support you, be in your corner and, help you through, because it's a whole new world, releasing music. If you haven't done it before, you get to the point you're like, oh, I do now, so now a few songs down, I feel like I'm getting into the swing of things.
Yeah, because I know that, one can go and do degrees in various things to do with music, but there really is no substitute for the act of doing it. And I think even if you learnt a lot about it in an educational sense, there are things you would discover that you hadn't covered, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a diploma of music a few years ago and I loved doing it, but until you're putting it into practice and getting into the real world of it all, there's a lot that I still took from that and still use today. But I guess once you're in the position of being like, okay, so I've got a release come out, what do I need to do? That's not, you don't get taught all those little bits and pieces that you kind of just start working out as you go. Sometimes you just have to jump in and work it out.
Yeah. And one of the lovely things I think about the Australian country music industry is that there are people like Gina and Rod who are prepared to mentor artists coming through. So that knowledge is there to access. And, quite a lot of them do it. But I'm interested because they are mentoring you and you're co-writing with them. I'm wondering if the dynamics in the writing room are influenced by that other relationship you have with them.
Well, I guess it really helps because when it comes to the writing, at least, it's really nice being in the environment where you're really close with the people. You feel completely relaxed. And, same with, we have some other co-writers in Nashville that we work with, Sam Gay and Templeton Thompson, who co-wrote, I think, all of my singles so far, actually. So when we all get on Zoom together, it's just such a beautiful environment because it's just relaxed. Everyone can be themselves and it's a very safe place to be writing. We're obviously there to do a job, but at the same time, it's a really nice, relationship that we've all built to just be able to try and put our best foot forward, be ourselves, and hopefully come up with something great. And we have a lot of fun and laughs along the way as well, but then it just means that we're all giving our best and then hopefully in the end get to jump it into the studio and get it going.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you started songwriting after you've been singing for a few years. A lot of people might out there want to start writing of all sorts, and especially songwriting if they're interested in music. How did you start? Was it a process of working out the right method for me, or I'm going to start allocating time and writing? No, that doesn't work. What's your process?
Well, initially for me, it was just more so finding that I was just getting these ideas in my head, and it was kind of like, oh, I should write that down. Oh yeah, kind of write things down. Oh, I've got this little melody idea, and I'd kind of quite often at night just like sing them into my phone. I think when I was like, or my iPod back in the day, I think when I was about 13 or 14, and I'd just sing them into my phone at night. But it was a bit like these ideas just happened, and I was like, oh well, okay, so come out with some song ideas, and so it was never really a massive intentional thing of being like, I'm going to be a songwriter now. It was just kind of these ideas started popping up, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. And I guess growing up, I always was very, aware of listening to the lyrics of songs and really paying attention. And even as a, younger child, before I could buy a song on iTunes, my mum would make me print out the lyrics and tell her what the song was about before she'd let me buy it. So I was always really, yeah. I know she'd love to like make sure it was appropriate for like a 10 or 11-year-old to be listening to, but she also wanted me to be able to tell her what the song's actually about. What are they saying? So I guess I've always been very aware of what makes the songs work or what they're about. So I guess I've always been paying attention. So when these ideas started coming, I was like, well, I'll give it a go myself. They weren't very good, and most will never see the light of day, but it was really interesting. And then when I started focusing on it more, it was going to conferences or doing workshops and working with different songwriters, and that was when I was being more intentional to actually learn to properly write, not just write the first thing that comes into your head.
Yeah, but it sounds like your mum in that way was a mentor for you as well. She was focusing your attention on elements of music.
Yeah, and it was only something that I was reflecting on probably, in the last year, that I was like, oh wow, I forgot about that I actually would have to sit down, print the lyrics out, and we'd talk through them. And I think that's had a big impact on me, because now I sit there and I listen word for word for every lyric, and I think unless you're drawn to it, I know a lot of people listen to music and just love to listen to the overall song. But I think as a songwriter, you really focus on that story and want to know what the song's about. What are they saying? What's the experience? So I think that's had a massive, massive influence that I only kind of just coined on a little while ago.
Does your mum, is she musical, or does she have creative pursuits of her own?
She loves writing and just like kind of just in general a bit of creative writing, but never pursued anything like that. So it was more so I think her just trying to be a good parent of being like, I need you to tell me that this song's appropriate for you.
And also it's like a little exercise. Now you mentioned
exactly.
to songwriting conferences. So you went to the Academy of Country Music in 2016, and in the same year you took out some awards at the Australian Songwriters Conference. I'm wondering if that's a coincidence, or if the Academy like somehow influenced your songwriting that year.
Oh, I think definitely. I'm pretty sure one of the songs I entered in the songwriting conference was one of the ones I wrote at Tamworth at the Academy. So that was obviously definitely going in hand. But I think as well, that year for me, 2016, was just kind of when I properly was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I really need to make this music stuff get going, make it happen. So I think that year was just really me starting to focus in on it a lot more, which you could see then by getting to go to the Academy and getting to go to the conference and have that experience too. So it was just a really fantastic year to properly dive into things, and obviously going to the Academy, that was an incredible experience, and I recommend it to anyone that can go. It's amazing. You learn so much in such a short amount of time, but it gives you such a broad overview of knowledge of the country music industry, but just music in general. And that was it was incredible.
And everyone who seems to go makes these relationships that seem to last. Actually, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're forged out of a hard time, more that you all have such a good time together.
Oh, it's so fun. And it's you there for, I think it was 2 weeks, and you just living in, having fun, making music. What more can you want? It's the best thing ever.
And now the current director of the Academy is Lynn Botel, and the amazing Lynn Botel, and she's also been a vocal coach for you, from what I understand. So it seems to me that you've got these mentors in Gina and Rod, you've worked with Lynn, you've worked with some other people, you love learning. And obviously you've applied yourself to being an artist, but you can do that and then think, I know enough. But it seems as though you're really curious and want to learn more. Has that always been the case for you since childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. School was never my cup of tea as such, but when it came to music studies or music, learning more about my craft, about singing, songwriting, my voice, that was always my interest there. And I think when you're doing something that you're passionate about and it's what you love, you want to keep learning more. School, no. Maths, no. But when it comes to your voice and singing, and I think as well as a vocalist, there's always room to improve. Your voice can always get better. Even in this last year, I've found it's improved even more just from doing different techniques, working with Gina, working with an incredible vocal coach through Gina as well, Rebecca. So it's just been great getting to learn from lots of different people, because they all have such different experiences, different techniques. So I figure you can't go wrong if you keep trying new things, and you then connect with great people along the way as well, and build nice relationships too.
Yeah. And just from what you're saying about the work you've been doing, it's a reminder that the voice is an instrument. I mean, I think when someone sings as effortlessly as you do, or it sounds effortless, but it always comes from a place of, once one digs a bit deeper, it comes from a place of having done actually quite a bit of work and technique. But yeah, I always think it's a little bit weird to have an instrument in your own body, if that makes sense. So if you're a guitarist, well, that's something you can carry around and put aside. Piano, hard to carry around, so you have a keyboard, but that instrument is within you. So I suppose you have to be very conscious of how you treat it and treat yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I'm very aware of my voice, and I'm very, I guess, on the ball always. Like if I'm at a cafe and I have to talk loud over the music, I'm like, I don't want to do that, or things like that. Or if I, have, a few nights in a row where I don't get a lot of sleep, I'm very aware, and I'm like, oh, my voice is feeling a bit tired today. It's just, yeah, you've got to be aware of all those things. I know some people just go through life and they've got amazing voices that are just robust and they don't have to do a whole lot for it. But, I try to keep an eye on it, look after it, because I guess you only get one. And you got to be careful at the same time. Obviously they're very, very robust too, but yeah, I like to try and look after it.
Well, and longevity is key when you're playing a lot of live shows, and a lot of working artists in the country music genre in Australia can play a lot of shows in a year. Your future self will thank you for looking after it now.
Absolutely. And I think especially after being in lockdown, it's like, oh, I need to get back into that fitness of being gig fit, getting into the routine of it again, because after, obviously I've sung it in lockdown, but not when not as much. You don't have something to plan towards, or you're not rehearsing for a show. You're kind of like, oh, I'll deal with that later, and now you come out of it and everything's going again. It's like, okay, got to get back into this now. Got to get that routine back and get fit.
Yeah. And you do have some shows to work towards for next year. So you were playing and singing June Carter Cash in Johnny Cash, the concert in Melbourne before the latest lockdown in the middle of the year. And sounds like you're picking that up again next year.
Well, they all got postponed. We did about 3 shows and then the rest got postponed. I'm glad we got some done because it's so much fun. I really just love doing the shows. It's great music, great group of people, and I'm just really thrilled to be invited along. And yeah, getting postponed, and hopefully over the next little while we'll get all those confirmed dates back up and running and get back on the road because it's so much fun.
Is it? I imagine it's a really interesting exercise to take on someone else's musical persona, not just playing a role, but it's not. They're not your songs and it's not your voice even. So what sort of preparation do you do in rehearsal to become someone else?
Well, for this one specifically, I've always loved Johnny and June, forever. I've loved their music. I've seen Walk the Line a million times. So it was great, already loving the music and knowing their history and things like that. So I think that helped going into it, that I already had that bit of backstory of understanding, how things work a little bit. And there was still a lot of songs in there that I hadn't heard because Dan, who plays Johnny Cash, he likes to pull out some of the bit more unique songs that not everyone might know. So that was really great for me to be like, oh, wow, I haven't heard this one before. This is a beautiful song. So rehearsing it was really just, nutting them out, getting into them and really trying to do the best I can. Because obviously I'm not going to sound like, it's not going to sound like June Carter Cash, but, I do my best to, I guess, honor her voice and, honor her music because they're incredible songs and just enjoy it. If anything, I found it to be less pressure than doing my own music. I just got to get up there and, kind of take on that persona of someone else for the night and enjoy it.
Yeah. And something else that's on the roster for next year is you touring with Gina and with Tanya Kernaghan. So I think that's kicking off in Tamworth. And I don't know if other dates have been announced yet, but I read that you're doing it, so it's real.
Yeah, it's very real. Super thrilled about it. It's going to be great fun. So getting to go out on the road with Gina and Tanya. Max Jackson's going to join us as well. So it's going to be this lovely girls' night out show, basically a collaboration of us all getting to, obviously Gina and Tanya, all their classic hits, new music that they've got coming out, and inviting us young girls along as well as the newbies. And it's going to be great launching it at Tamworth officially, and we've got a few more shows to come throughout the year, take it on the road, and not all officially confirmed yet as such, but we're working that all out at the moment. But it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's a great lineup because Max is complementary to you, I think, as opposed to being similar, and the same with Gina and Tanya. So it's a really lovely mix of talents and voices.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a ball. I can't wait to get going, and we're working out what are we all going to wear, what's the set going to be. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So you, as we mentioned at the start, you are in the studio. So working on new music. Do you, apart from those 2 shows we just talked about, do you plan releases far ahead? Or do you just have a vague idea of what you want to do next year?
I usually have the next few months roughly planned out. At the moment, hopefully, the idea is to be bringing out an album sometime next year. Obviously that could all change, but that's what we're hoping and working towards at the moment. And if it would be the first quarter, that would be great. If it's later in the year, not sure yet exactly, but we're just starting to piece it all together, because I think for a debut album as well, I want to do it right, make sure it's all the right songs, and just be 100% on what direction it is as well. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We're kind of just compiling everything, every time I can come up, just do song by song, kind of just start collating it all and see where it all gets to.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you do have a busy 2022. So I'm looking forward to finding out whatever that new music is, and I certainly hope to get to the Girls Night Out show whenever that starts. But Courtney, it's been so lovely to speak to you and find out more about you, and best of luck in the studio.
Thank you so much. And sorry it's so dark on the screen. It's a little
appropriately moody.
It's very, very moody. But thank you so much for the chat. It's been such a lovely time.
Thank you.